She becomes my queen consort.
In a move that sent shockwaves through the heart of the British monarchy.
Charles said he hoped his experience may give encouragement to others.
Prince William took control.
I felt, you're losing people every single time you have those headlines. We all get that there's a really big urgent message.
Within hours, Queen Camilla's children were forced out of the palace. What appeared to be a shocking Christmas Day banishment was only the opening strike in a much larger confrontation, one that threatened to expose secrets hidden at the very top of the crown. What did William uncover that required such decisive action? And how far would Camilla go to protect the carefully constructed world she had built? Join us as we uncover what happened next after Prince William seized control. Christmas lunch at Sandringham was meant to be routine. Roasted turkey, rich pudding, polite smiles, and rehearsed conversation. Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopez chatted easily about estate renovations and wine merchants, speaking with the confidence of those who believed royal access was their inheritance. William sat at the head of the table, silent and unreadable, his gaze tracking every movement. King Charles looked worn, the weight of the day etched into his face. Camilla's practiced smile flickered. Just for a moment, No one spoke of the tension, but it lingered heavily in the room. As the last plates were cleared, William placed his water glass on the table slowly, deliberately, the sharp sound cutting through the silence. The clink was subtle, almost casual, yet everyone at the table felt it, and within seconds the dining room doors swung open to reveal armed security, moving with precise, unreadable purpose, instantly silencing conversation and freezing knives midair as the room fell still. William rose calmly and placed a blue folder on the table. Its contents: forensic audit reports, bank statements, shell company registrations, and invoices tracing millions siphoned from royal accounts, leaving no room for denial as Tom and Laura went pale, Tom protesting weakly while Camilla sat frozen, gripping her napkin, and King Charles stared down at the numbers in shock. Speaking evenly, William announced the immediate termination of all Crown contracts with the front companies, the reclamation of misappropriated funds, and the revocation of access to royal properties and finances, leaving no space for negotiation as security escorted Tom and Laura through service corridors and out a rear door, their protests ignored. Watching impassively, William understood the severity of the moment was intentional, signaling the end of exploiting royal privilege and the beginning of a new order where no one stood above the rules. Just days before Christmas, he had quietly secured emergency authority over Crown finances and oversight through a precise legal transfer of power, allowing him to act unilaterally despite his father's wishes, a move that stunned the family, unsettled staff, and visibly shifted the palace's balance of power, though the optics were ruthless. William deemed the action necessary to end any perception that public duty could be twisted for private gain, marking a dramatic redefinition of royal authority and raising unspoken questions about how far this new era of accountability would extend. All of it was decided behind closed doors, while the official story later presented to the press claimed that King Charles III, facing health challenges, had temporarily transferred regency powers to William to ensure continuity, cooperation, family unity, and stability, though the reality was far more aggressive. William was assuming operational control to eliminate what he viewed as a malignant influence within the monarchy, activating the Regency Act, but interpreting his authority far beyond precedent, as the documents he secured were not ceremonial, but granted control over security services, financial oversight, and personnel decisions normally reserved for the monarch. When Charles signed at 9:47 p.m., unsteady yet deliberate, the transfer became legally binding, and by 10:15 p.m. William was already in motion, summoning the Director General of MI5 and the Keeper of the Privy Purse to a midnight meeting at Clarence House, where he informed them their offices had been compromised by loyalties tied to the Queen's household, and that cooperation was no longer optional. When the Keeper of the Privy Purse cited protocol, William coldly responded that those same protocols had enabled millions to be stolen, something that would no longer be tolerated, and by 2 a.m. both positions had been replaced with individuals William had secretly vetted for months: financial forensics specialists and counterintelligence professionals loyal to integrity rather than palace tradition. The most consequential move followed with access to the so-called black box, a secure digital archive containing decades of financial records, security reports, personnel files, and classified correspondence, previously accessible only to the monarch and spouse, and shielded from meaningful oversight. As William's team cross-referenced months of whispers, anonymous tips, and unexplained expenditures. The truth emerged clearly, and at 3:30 a.m., his first query tracking all contracts and payments linked to the Parker Bowles family over 5 years confirmed and surpassed his worst fears, revealing how royal funds had been quietly siphoned through routine budget categories such as estate maintenance, logistics, diplomatic receptions, and charitable events, each transaction appearing harmless in isolation, but together exposing a deliberate pattern of rerouted payments designed to evade surface audits, while funneling vast sums into hidden accounts, with Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopez not merely benefiting from the scheme, but controlling it. The investigation revealed a tightly constructed network of offshore trusts in the Isle of Man, Jersey, and the British Virgin Islands, each connected to shell companies holding legitimate palace contracts, making every invoice, transfer, and signed document part of a coordinated strategy to extract wealth under the appearance of ordinary operations. The complexity of the scheme made it clear this was not opportunistic theft, but a deliberate, carefully insulated operation designed to evade detection until William's inquiry finally exposed it. Tom's network controlled premium palace food supplies, billing Scottish salmon at triple market value, wine at £2,000 instead of £500, and flowers at quadruple their cost, while Laura charged tens of thousands for media advice amounting to a single email and hundreds of thousands for crisis consultations when no crisis had occurred. The most alarming category involved special event production and coordination, where cross-referencing invoices with court circulars and photographic evidence showed that many billed events never happened at all, while others were dramatically smaller than claimed, confirming deliberate fraud rather than simple greed. Over 5 years, approximately £45 million was siphoned through accounts controlled by Camilla's children, with every fraudulent transaction passing through the Queen's office before reaching the keeper of the privy purse, giving William definitive proof of what was stolen and how, though not yet whether Camilla herself was negligent or the architect of the scheme. That question hinged on a final clue: a distinctive purple seal appearing on documents at moments when the aging king was most vulnerable, a mark that could determine the fate of the Queen's children and the balance of power within the monarchy. In a secure, windowless basement at Kensington Palace, forensic accountants drawn from the Serious Fraud Office and former MI6 financial intelligence units worked relentlessly without phones, internet, or outside contact, tasked with finding the smoking gun. And it was a lead analyst experienced in dismantling a £2 billion money laundering network who identified the decisive pattern within special fund expenditures meant for emergencies and exempt from normal oversight. Royal regulations dating back to George V required 2 signatures for withdrawals, the keeper of the privy purse and the monarch, to prevent unauthorized access. Yet over 5 years, there were 237 special fund transactions, totaling £87 million. And when the analyst ran the signatures through comparison software against verified exemplars, she found discrepancies that pointed to manipulation during periods when the monarch's health had declined. The forensic analysis focused on consistency, letter formation, and motor control, and the results were alarming, as the largest authorizations ranging from £500,000 to £3 million scored only 45 to 70% confidence, indicating not careless handwriting, but signatures produced by someone with impaired control, likely under heavy medication, extreme fatigue, or physical distress. When analysts cross-referenced these signatures with King Charles's medical schedule, the pattern became even more disturbing, as the largest fraudulent transactions aligned precisely with chemotherapy sessions or post-operative recovery periods, times when painkillers and anti-nausea medications would have dulled cognition, revealing a calculated exploitation of his medical vulnerability. William listened in cold fury as timelines were laid out, pairing trembling signatures with medical records in what analysts described as systematic abuse of the king's condition. The method became clear through what investigators called a sandwiching technique, where high-value requests were buried among routine paperwork, ceremonial proclamations, diplomatic correspondence, military commissions, and charitable approvals stacked deliberately, so the most dangerous documents would barely register. Staff loyal to Camilla's office applied pressure, urging urgency and encouraging rapid signatures so the king could rest, exploiting his trust and exhaustion as he signed page after page with only seconds of review. The final and irrefutable proof lay in the purple seal. Special fund requests first passed through the Queen's office for administrative review, where Camilla's distinctive personal insignia was applied before the documents reached Charles, and on every fraudulent authorization, beneath his unsteady signature, that purple seal appeared, stamped 24 to 48 hours earlier. The implications were devastating. This was not mere embezzlement, but deliberate exploitation of an ill monarch, with his trust weaponized and millions siphoned from the crown by someone positioned as his closest ally. William now possessed clear digital evidence of an intricate and intentional scheme, but he knew that digital records alone would not be sufficient for criminal accountability. To move forward, he would need the original physical documents bearing both the king's signature and the incriminating seal. William needed the original documents bearing Camilla's seal and internal correspondence proving conscious approval. But the palace archives were vast and labyrinthine, and if Camilla realized he was closing in, evidence could vanish through a convenient fire, flood, or misplaced file. So he devised a trap. He deliberately leaked information about the forensic investigation through channels still loyal to her, allowing panic to take hold and forcing her into a desperate move that would expose her. The leak was precise and intentional, centered on Margaret Thornton, an administrative assistant in the Privy Purse office, personally recommended by Camilla, not corrupt but deeply loyal, and therefore predictable, and investigators arranged for her to overhear a staged conversation, suggesting the original signed documents were the final missing piece. Within 6 hours, the warning reached Camilla while she was taking tea at Clarence House, and after dismissing her staff, she spent 2 hours calculating the risks, recognizing that while digital evidence could be challenged, physical documents bearing Charles's vulnerable signature and her purple seal would be catastrophic if recovered. She made her decision coldly, retrieving a disposable phone and calling Ollie Hosson, her chief close protection officer of 15 years, a man whose loyalty went far beyond professional duty, and instructed him that safe number 4 in Archive B, containing the original authorizations, had to disappear without raising alarms. Ollie understood instantly that this was no routine task, but the destruction of evidence. Yet at 1:45 a.m., he entered Buckingham Palace through a staff entrance in standard night security attire, blending seamlessly into the shadows with tools concealed, including a disguised laser cutter and an incendiary device. Navigating corridors he knew intimately, he reached the archive room at 2:03 a.m., bypassed the keypad with his clearance, and quietly cut into the reinforced safe, retrieving a red portfolio containing 40 pages of original special fund authorizations, Charles's signatures, paired with Camilla's purple seals, documenting millions fraudulently extracted. As he raised a lighter to destroy the evidence, high-intensity floodlights suddenly illuminated the room. Footsteps thundered forward, and Lieutenant Colonel Thompson ordered him to stop as armed Royalty Protection Group officers surrounded him, leaving Ollie no choice but to surrender. Disarmed, restrained, and arrested for attempted destruction of Crown property, unauthorized access, and conspiracy to obstruct a royal investigation, Ollie remained silent until Thompson revealed the final blow. The burner phone Ollie had used had been monitored by GCHQ for 3 days, recording every instruction Camilla had given, effectively convicting herself. Ollie's capture ended the immediate conspiracy, but it raised a far greater question: why a queen would risk criminal exposure and sacrifice her most trusted protector simply to erase evidence of what had been done. Ollie Hosson sat in a room that officially didn't exist, a secure interrogation facility used for situations too sensitive for standard legal channels, austere and soundproof, with a metal table, 3 chairs, and cameras in the corners, its legal status ambiguous, but authorized under emergency provisions of the Official Secrets Act and royal security rules to bypass normal protections. Across from him sat Prince William and Lord Justice Petton, the senior legal advisor. William insisted on conducting the interrogation personally, not merely to understand what Ollie had done, but why a decorated protection officer would risk everything for Camilla. The session opened with a recording of Camilla's voice, clearly ordering Ollie to destroy the documents in Archive B, safe number 4, not relocate or hide them, but erase them entirely, with no thought for his safety or exit, only the disappearance of evidence. William slid documents across the table outlining the staggering consequences: a minimum of 20 years for trespassing, attempted destruction of national property, endangering a heritage building, conspiracy to obstruct a royal investigation, and potentially terrorism-related charges, with loss of family pensions, housing, and years of service, alongside an alternative: full cooperation in exchange for witness protection-style benefits, sentence reduction, and security for his family, provided Ollie testified to the conspiracy, the financial schemes, and specifically Camilla's role. For 6 hours, Ollie recounted how loyalty had become criminal, explaining that Camilla hadn't asked him to protect anyone, but to commit felonies to cover up systematic theft and exploitation of a dying king. She had created the so-called Post-Charles Safety Fund, funneling at least £100 million through shell companies into trusts controlled by her children, manipulating Charles's medical schedule to present documents when he was most compliant after chemotherapy, disguising personal enrichment as charitable or conservation initiatives. Ollie confirmed that Camilla never expressed remorse. Her only concern was avoiding exposure, treating the exploitation of Charles's illness as a business strategy executed with precision and pride. Hearing the deliberate long-term manipulation of his father's trust and vulnerability left William physically shaken. Camilla had weaponized affection, illness, and loyalty to enrich herself and her children, systematically betraying the man who had loved and defended her. With the documents, recordings, and timelines of calculated deception in his hands, William now held complete proof of the conspiracy, from destruction of evidence to financial manipulation. Yet the most painful confrontation remained. Facing his father to reveal that the woman caring for him in his final years was the architect of his exploitation. The conspiracy had been unraveled, but the ultimate question lingered. How do you tell a dying king that the love of his life was also the greatest threat to him? And what would that revelation do to the remnants of his world? The morning arrived grey and cold, the sky heavy as if warning of the storm about to break inside the estate, and William drove himself to his father's private residence, ignoring protocol, knowing this had to be a father-son conversation about a betrayal that threatened everything. Arriving at 9 o'clock with only a leather briefcase whose weight belied the mass of papers and recordings inside, he found Charles in his private study, surrounded by photographs and mementos reflecting a lifetime of service, his body frail from cancer, skin translucent, frame thinned, dignity now fragile, while Camilla sat nearby, a book in her lap, playing the devoted wife. When she saw William, she froze, recognizing instantly that this was no discussion she could manipulate. William set the briefcase on the table and began methodically removing documents. First, financial audits, charts, and graphs tracing money from royal accounts through shell companies to Parker B's family trusts. Then the original special fund authorizations, bearing Charles's signature and Camilla's purple seal. He explained the scale over 5 years. £87 million had vanished from royal accounts through ghost invoices and fraudulent contracts, with Tom Parker B and Laura Lopez as ultimate beneficiaries, hiding ownership through layers of corporate structures. He handed Charles one form, a £2.88 million emergency conservation payment that ended up in a Jersey shell company before being laundered into a family trust, and Charles's hands trembled as he struggled to remember signing it. William paired each authorization with medical records showing Charles had signed under heavy sedation or pain management. 43 high-value authorizations, all executed during periods of vulnerability, exploited with precision by someone who had access to his schedule. Then came the purple seal, Camilla's personal insignia, applied before the documents reached Charles, proving it was not a staff error but active facilitation. Charles stared, shaking, as the reality sank in. The woman he had trusted, defended, and elevated had used him to enrich her children. The final piece was a recording of Ollie Hosson, her longtime bodyguard, detailing how Camilla had obtained Charles's medical schedule, timed signing sessions, and falsified requests to exploit his trust and charitable instincts, calling the scheme the Post-Charles Safety Fund, designed to secure at least £100 million in independent assets. Confronted with documents, testimony, and recordings, Charles could no longer deny the deliberate exploitation of his illness. He realized how thoroughly he had been manipulated and asked the question that had haunted their decades together. Why? He had given her love, trust, protection, and status, married her, defended her, and now she had turned his vulnerability into an opportunity to steal millions. Tears streamed down his face, not from anger but pure devastation, grief at realizing his final years had been lived under a lie. Camilla tried to speak, but every defense collapsed beneath the weight of evidence. Her tears were not of remorse but fear, as she calculated survival, attempting to shift blame onto William, claiming his resentment over Diana's memory had driven her, but William cut through the excuse. Her fear of losing money had cost her the only thing that truly mattered, Charles's trust. Camilla retreated inward, processing the totality of the deception, How many times had she presented documents under the guise of care? How many times had Charles trusted her, believing she had his well-being in mind, only to be manipulated, every memory of partnership, love, and protection revealed as a decades-long performance, a con? William turned to his father, softening slightly, asking whether he wanted justice pursued or scandal avoided, and Charles, still tearful but now clear-eyed, nodded imperceptibly, granting his son permission to act, the saddest gesture William had ever seen. A father entrusting his son with the destruction of the last vestiges of happiness for the sake of survival. The evidence was complete, the conspiracy fully exposed. Yet the ultimate question remained. What does justice look like when the criminal is a queen and the victim a dying king? William now faced the grim task of accountability within a system designed to protect royalty, knowing that exposing a queen could shock the monarchy and questioning whether trust could ever be restored. Judgment Day arrived. William stood before Camilla, voice steady and authoritative, declaring that her removal was necessary not out of mercy, but to preserve the institution, presenting a legal order sealed by the Prince Regent and countersigned by the Lord Chief Justice. The terms were absolute. Camilla would leave the estate within 15 minutes for a remote property in the Scottish Highlands, access to public funds limited to a monitored stipend, retaining the title of Queen Consort in name only, but barred from all public appearances, royal events, ceremonial duties, and any contact with Charles with communications strictly legal, and her children's contact limited and supervised, contingent on full cooperation with financial restitution. Her children avoided criminal charges only by complying. Camilla attempted to argue her legal rights, but William cut her off, presenting the alternative. Full criminal prosecution for fraud, embezzlement, and elder abuse, with prison time for her and public trials for her children, scandal broadcast worldwide. Recognizing the futility of resistance, she whispered, broken and defeated, as two officers guided her to the waiting Range Rover, allowed only the clothes she wore, while all other possessions would be inventoried and any non-sentimental items sold for restitution. Each step toward the car was a step out of her life entirely, past the home she had manipulated for years, into obscurity. William watched her disappear behind ancient oak trees, then turned back to Charles, who remained seated, staring into the grey morning, processing devastation and relief simultaneously. William placed a hand gently on his father's shoulder, reminding him he had been betrayed, but was now protected. Charles, still trembling, asked quietly what would happen next, and William assured him the immediate danger was over, deceit uncovered, the guilty removed, and finances stabilized, though the work had only begun. Public trust needed rebuilding, internal oversight strengthened, and the monarchy reformed to prevent future abuse. Charles agreed but cautioned that vigilance must not come at the expense of humanity, emphasizing that the monarchy's value came from connection, warmth, and trust, not rigid control, and William acknowledged that maintaining that balance would be his greatest challenge. Kate entered quietly, standing beside William as a reminder that leadership required support and partnership, reassuring Charles that he would be cared for, surrounded by people who valued him personally rather than for his crown. Emotionally raw, Charles recognized that this family was finally acting in his genuine interest, expressing gratitude for William's courage and wisdom, acknowledging that confronting the truth was cruel but necessary. The discussion turned to the children. Tom and Laura would repay much of what was stolen and fade from public life, avoiding prosecution only through continued cooperation, with any attempt to rehabilitate their public image triggering legal consequences. The family, once a network of manipulation and secrecy, was now under strict accountability. Eventually, Charles's exhaustion became evident, and William and Kate prepared to leave, pausing to reaffirm their commitment and love, emphasizing that the exile, harsh as it seemed, was the only way to protect both the man and the institution. Charles, though grieving, managed a small, sad smile. As they walked to the car, William looked back at the estate and the window where Charles sat, feeling relief that corruption had been cut out, sorrow for the pain endured, and the weight of the monumental task ahead. Kate squeezed his hand silently, sharing the burden of responsibility, while the estate disappeared behind them, the past left behind. Yet the questions remained. Could the monarchy survive such a profound betrayal from within? Could trust be restored inside the family and institution shaken to its core? And could the monarchy ever fully recover from a betrayal at the top, while Camilla remained isolated in exile?